So when you want to build your own LED wall, often when you're constructing an LED wall, you'll have a floor plan that's created by an architect. You don't necessarily need that in this case, but it may be helpful. This is a little example one I've included, which I've made in Blender. And I have a scale here, which is 1 meter. So I know this should be 1 meter. And then once I brought this texture into Unreal, I've got a 1 meter cube here. So handy little tip is to make sure that your measurement is in the center of your texture. When you bring it in, you can center your plane, apply the texture, and then drop in the Unreal 1 meter cube. And as long as your texture is scaled to the meter of the 1 meter cube, then you know you're at the correct scale. So we can turn off our little cube and we can get started building our LED wall. So if we jump into Blueprint, into this folder here for blueprints, we can grab the LED volume designer and we can drag it in. We want to drag it, it can be anywhere, but I generally like to drag it near the start of my curve. So this is our first spline point here. So if I click on the blueprint, we can see our first spline point here. And our last spline point is here. So what I'm going to do is, this is a neat little trick. You can grab your little spline point and you can drag it over and set it to the end of your curve. And then in the middle here, we can right click and add spline point here. So let's make sure that spline point is somewhere near the middle of our floor plan. And then we can drag it up like that. And then we can make sure it's centered. And then we can grab these little spline points. And if I pull those to the side, they're going to create this kind of bell style curve. Now we can go back to our original points and we can press E to go into rotation mode. Just make sure you're on world rotation, not local rotation. And then we can grab the Z axis and we can kind of rotate our little point there, and we can do the same with the other one, rotate our little point out there. I'm going to leave it like this for our demo purposes, but you can add more spline points and get as accurate as you would like. So now I'm going to jump back over to the blueprint. So currently the blueprint, if we jump over to details and scroll up to the top, the blueprint is in design mode. So design mode means that no panels will be generated. You are free to modify your spline to suit your needs. After that, we can jump into build mode, and the blueprint is going to build a section of the wall. So what I suggest doing is coming down to your LED. Firstly, you want to set your preset. If you've created a preset, you can click preset here. And then you can select your preset in here. You may have a user preset, or you may just want to use one of the existing industry standard presets. I'm just going to use this one for default because this is a very common panel. And make sure I'm on preset. If you want to go into manual mode, you can, and then you can enter all your details here and select your pixel map. So that's a quick way to, try different values. Don't forget, if you change your resolution, you need to regenerate your LED pixel map in the LED panel designer map. So I'm going to use preset, and I'm on this popular preset. And what I suggest you do is expand LED volume configuration here and go down and set your vertical count to, let's say, 1, because we just want to see how many panels we need. So obviously 12 is not enough. I'm going to say 50 is still not enough, so I'm going to say 70, and we kind of end up where we should be. So now we need to add some more vertical panels. So I'm going to add 10, and these panels are about 500 millimeters, so that's going to be a 5 meter high wall. So when I add 10, you'll notice that something happens here and the LED wall doesn't finish completely building. That's because we have this little LED panel max count limit. And this is for two reasons. One, because you don't want to generate hundreds of thousands of panels accidentally. And also, occasionally you will have a budget of how many LED panels you can actually use, depending on the project or depending on the construction. So I'm just going to bump that up to 800 so we can complete our wall. So we have that nice generous limit in there. So the LED wall, the panels have different representations. You can just represent them as a basic panel like this. So this is correct to the scale of the preset. Or you can make them realistic, which will give them a realistic back to them, if you prefer that. Or you can switch to Ultra, which includes the scaffolding as well. So that's just a nice little bit of eye candy extra that you have there. So once you've set all that up, you can take a look at some of the input sources. So we can switch from calibration to image. We have a default image. If none is selected, you get this image, but you can select another image if you like. So if I go into input sources, we have this one here. So if I select this image source, you can see the image is being stretched to the aspect ratio of the LED wall. If you want to adjust that, you can quite easily. If you come down to input settings here, you can adjust the vertical scale. So I'm going to scale it up vertically, and I'm going to pull it down slightly in the vertical offset. So I'm going to minus 0.1. That should do it. So now I've got a nice section of that image mapped onto the LED wall. So that's a handy little feature. Another handy little feature is you are able to grade your input. So if you turn grading on, then you can do things like tint your input. So you don't have to do this anywhere else. It's just a handy little feature. You can play around with that. You have a few different settings in there. So you have brightness, contrast, saturation, and tint. And then if we come down here, we've got a few other things like node resolution. You can set your node resolution. And then down here, you can see how many panels you're using in total, how many estimated render nodes there are. So this is estimating it'll take 8 render nodes at this resolution, which you can supply here, to completely power this wall. Average power consumption will be roughly 73.5 kilowatts. The complete wall length is going to be 35 meters, and the complete height is going to be 5 meters. These are very high resolution panels, as you can see. So this is going to be 22,400 pixels in horizontal resolution and 3,200 pixels in vertical resolution. And you can, of course, once you've built your wall, you can go back and you can change different presets. So if we change to one of these other presets, it'll refresh. And if I zoom in here, you'll actually be able to see the pixels change. So you can swap between resolutions and presets. And yeah, if you want to export your LED wall to send to somebody else, or to play around with in Maya or another 3D program like Blender, you can come up to here and you can export your volume as an FBX. Just put the full path, including the .fbx, into here, and then click export volume as FBX. One thing to note with this is I found that with Unreal, occasionally Unreal doesn't have permission to export to root C drive. So you generally want to put it inside a folder that is in C drive, and then you won't have any issues exporting. It's just a little gotcha that I have discovered over the years. So that's all from me. I hope you enjoy the asset. There's a lot more features in there. I don't want to go through them all because the video is going to be super long, but feel free to reach out on the Discord, like and subscribe. I'm going to continue putting out more content in future. So yeah, I hope to see you in the Discord and have a chat, and take care. Thanks for watching.